I'm about to share a truth with you that you may have never heard from any doctor before. You've always been told that vegetables, especially green ones, are always good for you. But today, as a brain doctor, I'm here to reveal something shocking. There are 7 specific vegetables that, if eaten the wrong way, can increase your stroke risk literally overnight. Yes, in just one night. And here's the scary part. Some of these are vegetables you might be eating almost every single day, without realizing the silent damage they could be doing to your brain's blood vessels. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this so you can take action before it's too late. Because a stroke is something that can change your life in an instant, the way you speak, the way you walk, even your ability to take care of yourself. All of it can be gone in a single moment. And if you're wondering, how can healthy vegetables possibly do this? The answer is simple. It all depends on your age, your current health condition, the medications you take, and how much of these vegetables you consume. In this video, I'll reveal the name of each vegetable, explain the science behind the risk, share real patient examples, and, most importantly, I'll show you how to enjoy these vegetables safely so your brain stays healthy and your stroke risk stays as low as possible. But here's the key, you must watch until the very end. Because some of these vegetables might seem harmless at first, but as we go down the list, you'll discover that the most dangerous one is hiding at the very end. So, if you're over 60, or you have a parent, grandparent, or loved one in that age group, or even if you simply care about protecting your health, I strongly urge you, do not skip a single second of this video. What you're about to learn today could quite literally save your life. Let's get started. Spinach, the vegetable we've all been told is the ultimate symbol of health. From childhood cartoons showing characters gaining super strength after a single bite, to modern dietitians calling it a superfood, spinach has held a golden reputation for decades. But here's the uncomfortable truth that almost no one talks about. For seniors, especially those over 60, spinach can quickly turn from a nutrient powerhouse into a silent, dangerous trigger for stroke. And the scariest part? You might be eating it every single day, thinking you're protecting your health, while in reality you could be setting the stage for a life-threatening event overnight. Spinach is loaded with vitamin K, so much of it that it can actually interfere with life-saving medications. If you're on blood thinners like warfarin, rivaroxaban, or even a simple aspirin regimen, excess vitamin K can cancel out the effect of these drugs, making your blood stickier and more prone to clotting. And if one of those clots travels to your brain, it can cause a stroke, sometimes within hours. This isn't an exaggeration, it's a real risk I've seen firsthand in my patients. But that's only one part of the problem. Spinach is also extremely high in oxalates, natural compounds that bind to calcium in your body. Over time, this can cause kidney stones, but it also contributes to something even more dangerous, vascular calcification. This is when your blood vessels slowly harden and narrow, leaving less space for blood to pass through. When those pathways shrink, the risk of a clot lodging somewhere vital, like in the arteries leading to your brain, increases dramatically. For a younger person, the body may cope with this stress, but for seniors, whose vessels are already more fragile, it's a dangerous game. Then there's the iron factor. Spinach contains a form of iron that's often praised for fighting anemia, but in seniors, particularly men and postmenopausal women, too much iron can actually speed up blood vessel damage. Excess iron acts like a corrosive agent, promoting plaque buildup along artery walls. And just one small rupture in that plaque can send a clot racing toward your brain. Let me tell you about a real patient, a 72-year-old man I'll call Mr. R. He was active, fit, and very conscious about what he ate. Recently, he switched to a green smoothie diet after reading about its anti-aging benefits online. His breakfast smoothie? 3 full cups of raw spinach every morning. Within 2 weeks, he experienced sudden dizziness, slurred speech, and weakness in his right arm. He was rushed to the hospital, where we confirmed it was a mild stroke. The tests showed his blood-thinning medication had become almost useless because of the excessive vitamin K in his diet. His healthy morning habit was sabotaging his brain's blood supply without him even knowing it. Does this mean spinach is bad? No. Spinach still contains valuable nutrients: lutein for eye health, magnesium for muscles, and folate for brain function. The real danger comes from overconsumption and imbalance. If you're over 60, the key is moderation. Talk to your doctor before making spinach a daily staple, especially if you take blood thinners. Limit it to about 1 cup cooked or 1.5 cups raw a few times a week instead of every day. Rotate your greens by including lettuce, bok choy, or arugula. And remember that cooking spinach reduces oxalate levels, which makes it safer for your kidneys and arteries. In the end, spinach isn't the enemy. But for seniors, the dose makes the poison. Too much can increase your stroke risk, even overnight. The next time you grab that extra handful for your salad or smoothie, remember this: what's healthy for one person can be dangerous for another. Your brain's safety depends not on avoiding certain foods entirely, but on understanding how they work in your body, and how much is too much. Beetroot, vibrant, sweet, and praised for its heart-boosting powers, has been a darling of health blogs and detox juice recipes for years. Many seniors proudly sip their beet juice in the morning, believing it's protecting their brain by improving blood flow. And yes, on the surface, that's true. Beetroot is packed with nitrates, natural compounds that the body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that helps relax and widen blood vessels. This can lower blood pressure and improve circulation to the brain. But here's where the story takes a dangerous turn. For some seniors, this sudden shift in blood pressure can become a ticking time bomb. Imagine this: your blood vessels are used to working under a certain level of pressure. They've adapted over decades to a particular rhythm. Now, you flood your system with beet juice, and within hours, your blood pressure drops sharply. If you're young, your body can adjust. But in older adults, that drop can be steep enough to cause dizziness, fainting, and even a sudden lack of blood supply to certain parts of the brain, a condition that can lead to a mini-stroke or a full-blown ischemic stroke. And it can happen overnight, without warning. The second hidden danger: if you're already taking blood pressure medication or nitrate-based drugs for heart disease, beetroot can amplify their effects, making your blood pressure fall too low. This is what we call a hypotensive crisis, and when blood pressure dips too much, the brain suffers first. Reduced oxygen delivery to brain tissue, even for a few minutes, can trigger permanent damage. Beetroot also carries a surprising risk for those with kidney problems. Its high oxalate content, much like spinach, can promote kidney stone formation, and in those with reduced kidney function, these compounds can build up in the blood. Over time, this can cause inflammation in the vessels, again setting the stage for blockages that may travel to the brain. Let me share the story of Mrs. L, a 68-year-old retired teacher. She read online that beetroot juice could clear the arteries and reverse aging, so she began drinking 2 large glasses a day. At first, she felt energized, but within weeks she started experiencing sudden blackouts, particularly when standing up from bed at night. One evening, she fainted in the bathroom, hitting her head. At the hospital, tests revealed her blood pressure had been dropping dangerously low, a direct result of beetroot juice interacting with her blood pressure medication. And worse, an MRI scan showed tiny areas of brain tissue damage consistent with transient ischemic attacks, mini-strokes, that likely happened when her brain was momentarily starved of oxygen. So, should seniors avoid beetroot completely? Not necessarily. Beetroot can be part of a healthy diet. In fact, in small amounts, it can help maintain healthy blood flow. But for older adults, especially those on heart or blood pressure medications, the key is caution. Start with very small amounts, perhaps just a few slices roasted in a salad, and watch for symptoms like dizziness, blurred vision, or sudden weakness. And never combine large amounts of beet juice with blood pressure pills without talking to your doctor first. In the end, beetroot's story is a perfect example of how a food can be both a medicine and a risk, depending on the person and the dose. For seniors, the goal is stability, steady blood pressure, steady brain oxygen supply, and anything that swings that balance too fast, even something as natural as beetroot, can tip the scales toward danger. Celery often wears the crown of a perfect diet food. It's crisp, low in calories, and famous for its water content. Some even joke that you burn more calories chewing it than you gain eating it. Seniors love it for its crunch in salads, soups, or as a light snack. But behind that fresh green stalk lies a risk that many never see coming, especially when brain health is at stake. The hidden culprit? Sodium, and not the kind you sprinkle from a shaker. Celery naturally contains sodium in surprisingly high amounts for a vegetable. In fact, a single large stalk can have up to 50 milligrams of sodium, and for people who eat it liberally, in juices, smoothies, or as a snack throughout the day, that sodium can quietly build up. For seniors, particularly those with high blood pressure, heart disease, or a history of strokes, this natural sodium can be just as dangerous as the processed kind. Here's why: high sodium intake causes the body to hold on to more water, increasing the volume of blood circulating through the vessels. This raises blood pressure, often subtly at first, so you don't notice. But for someone over 60, even a small but steady rise in blood pressure can put immense strain on the arteries that feed the brain. Over time, these vessels can stiffen, develop tiny cracks, and become more prone to plaque buildup. One sharp spike in pressure, triggered perhaps by a salty meal, stress, or even dehydration, can rupture a weak vessel, leading to a hemorrhagic stroke. The danger grows when celery is juiced. Juicing removes the fiber that slows digestion, allowing sodium and other compounds to be absorbed faster into the bloodstream. For seniors who start their day with a large glass of green juice containing multiple stalks of celery, the sodium hit can be intense, and if they're also taking medications like diuretics or steroids, which affect fluid balance, the risk of dangerous blood pressure fluctuations skyrockets. Take the case of Mr. P, a 72-year-old retired engineer. He had been managing his blood pressure well for years, but after reading about the celery juice cleanse online, he began drinking half a liter every morning. Within a month, his blood pressure readings began creeping upward, despite sticking to his medication. One evening, after a stressful day, he experienced sudden weakness on his right side and slurred speech. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed him with a mild stroke. His medical records revealed no other new dietary changes, just the daily celery juice. It wasn't the only cause, but it was the silent contributor that pushed his blood pressure over the edge. And there's another subtle danger. Celery contains compounds called psoralens, which make the skin more sensitive to sunlight. For most people, that just means a slightly higher risk of sunburn. But for seniors on blood-thinning medications, any skin damage can increase bleeding risk, and psoralens also have been linked to inflammatory responses that may affect blood vessels over time. Does this mean celery is the enemy? Absolutely not. When eaten in moderation, it's a refreshing, fiber-rich vegetable. But for older adults at risk of stroke, it's important to keep portions small and avoid daily large-scale juicing. The key is balance. 1 or 2 stalks in a salad a few times a week is fine, but treating celery as a miracle cure and overloading on it can quietly raise your stroke risk. Swiss chard is the kind of vegetable that looks like pure health on a plate: glossy green leaves, vibrant red or yellow stems, and a taste that chefs adore. Seniors often reach for it as a super green, believing it's packed with nothing but goodness. And in many ways, it is, loaded with vitamins C and K, along with magnesium and potassium. But what's hiding inside this leafy beauty is something far less friendly to the brain, a staggering load of oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds found in many plants. In small amounts, they aren't a problem for most people. But Swiss chard doesn't come with a small amount. It's one of the highest oxalate vegetables you can put on your plate. For seniors, this matters more than you might think, because oxalates don't just affect the kidneys, they can quietly influence stroke risk as well. Here's how. When oxalates bind to calcium in the body, they can form tiny crystals. In the kidneys, this can lead to stones, which are painful enough. But when calcium is constantly tied up by oxalates, less of it is available for essential nerve and muscle function. That includes the smooth muscles in blood vessel walls and the electrical activity in the heart. Over time, reduced calcium availability can contribute to erratic heart rhythms and unstable blood pressure, two silent stroke triggers that can strike without warning. Swiss chard's oxalate load becomes even more dangerous for seniors with reduced kidney function, something that often develops gradually with age. A healthy kidney might clear oxalates efficiently, but aging kidneys work slower. That means oxalates stay in circulation longer, increasing the risk of mineral imbalances that put stress on both the cardiovascular and nervous systems. Then there's the potassium punch. Normally, potassium is a good guy, it helps keep blood pressure in check. But in excess, especially when kidney function is compromised, potassium can spike to dangerous levels, leading to sudden weakness, confusion, or even cardiac arrest. And here's the catch. One large serving of cooked Swiss chard can have more than 900 milligrams of potassium, over double what some heart patients are advised to consume in a single sitting. That much potassium at once can drastically alter the electrical signals that control heartbeat, potentially leading to clot formation in the heart chambers. If a clot travels to the brain, the result can be an ischemic stroke. I once reviewed the case of a 68-year-old woman who had switched to a plant-heavy diet after her cholesterol crept up. She replaced lettuce in her daily salads with large bowls of raw Swiss chard, thinking it was a smarter choice. Within 2 months, she began experiencing dizziness and occasional palpitations. One morning, she collapsed in her kitchen. Tests revealed dangerously high potassium levels and early signs of kidney strain, and her doctors linked it directly to her excessive Swiss chard intake. The irony is, Swiss chard can be part of a healthy diet, but only in modest portions and with careful preparation. Boiling it and discarding the water can cut oxalates by up to 50%, making it safer for those with kidney concerns. But the problem is that health blogs often portray it as a more is better food, pushing seniors to eat it daily and in large amounts, a decision that can quietly set the stage for stroke risk. Spinach, the leafy green that made Popeye strong, is probably sitting in the fridge of every health-conscious senior right now. It's light, fresh, packed with vitamins, and has long been marketed as a must-eat for a healthy body and sharp mind. But here's the twist most people never hear. In certain situations, spinach can quietly become a blood clot's best friend, and that's exactly the kind of silent danger that can trigger a stroke overnight. The secret lies in spinach's extremely high vitamin K content. Vitamin K is essential for normal blood clotting. Without it, you'd bleed too easily from even the smallest cuts. But when vitamin K levels in your diet swing too high, too fast, the clotting process can become overactive. For seniors, especially those already prone to cardiovascular disease, this shift can mean trouble. It's like moving your blood from a smooth-flowing stream into a sticky, slow-moving river where clots can form and get stuck in all the wrong places. Now imagine what happens when that clot lodges itself in a blood vessel feeding your brain. One moment you're fine, the next, confusion, weakness, slurred speech. That's the brutal reality of an ischemic stroke. And here's what makes spinach particularly risky for certain people. If you're taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin, sudden large doses of spinach can completely throw off the delicate balance your doctor is trying to maintain. Instead of thinning the blood to prevent clots, the sudden vitamin K load can thicken it, canceling out the medication's effect almost instantly. I've seen cases where seniors who were stable for years suddenly found themselves in the ER because they went healthy overnight, swapping sandwiches for big spinach salads twice a day. The irony? They thought they were lowering their risk, but in reality, they were feeding it. Spinach also contains significant oxalates, just like Swiss chard. While this doesn't affect everyone, for those with reduced kidney function, the oxalates can bind to calcium and subtly contribute to mineral imbalances that affect blood pressure and heart rhythm, two conditions tightly linked to stroke risk. And when you pair that with the blood-thickening potential of vitamin K overload, you get a perfect storm where both clot formation and cardiovascular instability are more likely. One patient story stays with me, a retired schoolteacher in her 70s who switched to a green smoothie challenge to boost her health. She drank 2 massive spinach-based smoothies every day for 3 weeks. Her lab work showed dangerously high clotting activity, and just days later, she suffered a mild stroke. She recovered, but the damage to her speech lingered for months. The truth is, spinach isn't bad, but like all powerful foods, it needs respect. Small amounts a few times a week? Fantastic. Huge portions every day, especially when mixed with certain medications? That's when it turns from friend to foe. The body thrives on balance, and spinach in overdose is anything but balanced. Kale, the so-called king of greens, has been crowned a superfood for the past decade, plastered across every health magazine, smoothie recipe, and senior nutrition guide. With its deep green leaves and reputation for fighting disease, it seems like the perfect food to load onto your plate. But what almost no one talks about is the hidden side of kale, a side that can quietly and powerfully raise your stroke risk overnight if you're not paying attention. Like spinach, kale is loaded with vitamin K, and in some cases, even more per serving. For most people, that's harmless, even beneficial. But for seniors, especially those on blood-thinning medication, a sudden surge of vitamin K can cause a dangerous shift in blood clotting activity. Imagine you're walking across a perfectly balanced tightrope, and someone suddenly throws a heavy weight on one side, you lose balance instantly. That's what happens in your bloodstream when kale is eaten in excessive amounts after weeks or months of steady, moderate intake. Your carefully managed clotting levels can swing too far, too fast. The danger doesn't stop there. Kale also contains natural compounds called thiocyanates. These can interfere with thyroid function if eaten in very large amounts, especially when raw. For seniors, even mild thyroid imbalances can have ripple effects on blood pressure, heart rate, and cholesterol levels, all of which influence stroke risk. A sluggish thyroid can cause your heart to work harder to push blood through your arteries, creating tiny areas of turbulence inside your blood vessels. Those turbulent spots are prime locations for clots to form. I've had patients who were proud kale enthusiasts, drinking green juices twice a day, convinced they were fortifying their health. But when we checked their blood work, we found their clotting profiles completely out of range and their blood pressure inching higher week by week. They weren't doing anything wrong in their eyes, they were simply following the superfood hype without realizing the dose makes the poison. One gentleman, a retired engineer in his late 60s, told me he swapped his normal breakfast for kale smoothies to cleanse his arteries. Within 6 weeks, he landed in the hospital with symptoms of a transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke. Fortunately, he recovered fully, but it shook him to the core. His doctor's advice after reviewing his diet was simple: kale is healthy, but not in industrial quantities. Kale's bitterness, which comes from its phytochemicals, is part of what makes it so nutrient-dense. But that same concentration of compounds means your body feels the effects more strongly. It's like medicine, just because a small dose is good doesn't mean a massive dose is better. For seniors, moderation isn't just a guideline, it's a safeguard against pushing your cardiovascular system into dangerous territory. Here's the takeaway: kale isn't the villain, but it's not an all-you-can-eat miracle either. Treat it like a potent supplement, not a staple you drown your meals in. Space it out, cook it when possible to reduce certain compounds, and if you're on medication, talk to your doctor before making kale your daily habit. Because when it comes to protecting your brain and keeping your stroke risk low, balance always beats excess. Celery, crisp, refreshing, and often marketed as the diet food, with almost 0 calories, seems like the last vegetable anyone would suspect of raising stroke risk. After all, it's mostly water, right? But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. For seniors, celery can be a silent troublemaker, especially when eaten in large amounts or in certain processed forms. The first hidden danger is its natural sodium content. While celery doesn't taste salty, it contains a surprisingly high level of naturally occurring sodium compared to most vegetables. For someone who eats it occasionally, this is no big deal. But if you're snacking on stalk after stalk every day, especially if you're adding it to soups, juices, or salads in bulk, you might unknowingly be adding hundreds of milligrams of sodium to your diet without realizing it. Why does this matter? In seniors, even a modest increase in sodium can push blood pressure higher, sometimes within hours. High blood pressure is the single most powerful risk factor for stroke because it can weaken artery walls, making them more prone to rupture, or cause tiny tears where clots can form. And unlike processed salt that you can measure and track, natural sodium from celery often flies under the radar. You don't see it, so you don't count it. But the sodium isn't the only issue. Celery contains compounds called psoralens, which can make your skin more sensitive to sunlight. While that might seem unrelated to stroke, it's part of a bigger picture. Chronic inflammation from UV damage can affect your entire vascular system over time. And inflammation inside your blood vessels is like rough sandpaper on the smooth lining of your arteries. It creates spots where plaque can stick and clots can develop. Now, if we're talking celery sticks from the garden, that's one thing. But many seniors unknowingly consume celery in concentrated forms, like celery salt, celery powder in spice blends, or as a hidden ingredient in natural, processed foods. These forms can carry an even higher sodium punch, sometimes rivaling processed table salt. I remember a patient in her early 70s who proudly told me she'd cut all added salt from her diet to protect her heart. But she was adding generous shakes of celery salt to her vegetable soups, thinking it was a healthy substitute. When we measured her daily sodium intake, it was actually higher than before she cut salt. Her blood pressure had crept up over the months, putting her at significantly higher stroke risk, and she had no idea. Celery isn't the enemy here, moderation is the key. If you love celery, enjoy it in small amounts and mix it with other low-sodium vegetables. Avoid overusing celery salt, and be mindful of how often you're drinking celery-based juices or smoothies. Remember, just because something is natural doesn't mean it's harmless in unlimited quantities. Your brain and your arteries will thank you for keeping sodium in check, whether it comes from a salt shaker or a green stalk on your plate. So, as we've seen today, even the most innocent-looking vegetables can hide dangers for seniors, dangers that can quietly, almost invisibly, raise your stroke risk overnight. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Knowledge is your strongest medicine, and when you understand how your daily choices affect your brain and blood vessels, you take back control over your health. Your brain is the command center of your entire life. Every memory, every conversation, every smile you share depends on keeping it safe. And while vegetables are an essential part of a healthy diet, knowing which ones to limit, and how to prepare them, can mean the difference between thriving into your golden years and facing a life-altering health crisis. The power is in your hands. You can start today by paying closer attention to your plate, by balancing what you eat, and by listening to your body. I'm not asking you to give up everything you love. I'm simply urging you to be mindful, because the small changes you make now can add up to years of sharper thinking, stronger mobility, and a healthier heart. If this video opened your eyes or taught you something new, then please don't keep it to yourself. Like this video to let us know you care about your health. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss out on life-saving tips backed by real medical science. And share this with your family and friends, because you never know who might be quietly at risk and in need of this knowledge. Together, we can protect our brains, protect our futures, and live the vibrant, independent lives we all deserve.